So you might have seen this game floating around online and you're thinking about getting it, but you've never played a Monster Hunter game before because you're an idiot, just like I was. I'm just joking, by the way, except the part about me being an idiot. Well, don't you worry, I've got you covered for the next couple of minutes, so sit back and relax while I explain what this game is about and see if I can convince you to get the game. Firstly, we have to go back to the lore of this game, and don't worry, I'm not gonna sit too long here. I'm not gonna go through every single Monster Hunter game because I wasn't even there at the very beginning. The first Monster Hunter game came out in Japan, obviously because it is a Japanese game, and it got popular enough for it to expand. For me though, I really didn't see Monster Hunter get big enough in the West. Sure, I saw it here and there, but it didn't entice me enough to play it. Also, I was a broke teenage boy that would rely on their parents to buy stuff. In fact, I remember playing a demo for Monster Hunter on the 3DS, and they had so many tutorials that my baby brain could not get a handle over. It wasn't until I saw Monster Hunter World pop up, and it looked very interesting this time round. Also, a friend of mine convinced me to get it so we can play together. Once I got it, a couple hours later, I dropped the game. But after watching some guides on YouTube, I got better, and now I'm addicted to Monster Hunter. No! So if you get this game and you get stuck or you keep on dying, don't worry, we all started as a noob, and once you get into the flow of this game, you will be just like me, throwing whatever money you have left for the next Monster Hunter game or getting their huge DLC. Okay, enough of the lore side, let's talk gameplay. You might be asking, what the hell do you do in this game? Well, you hunt monsters, just like the title suggests. And yes, even though what you're seeing right now is some kind of a dragon, you still hunt monsters. You won't be hunting any monster that comes from Bloodborne or any other Souls-like monster. Yes, Orphan of course, please stay where you are, I don't need to hear more screaming. The monsters you fight here are mostly something that's fantasy-like, and not dark fantasy. Hunting down these monsters will give you materials that you can use to forge weapons and armor, so that you can continue to hunt more monsters that get harder and harder to fight. Sounds pretty simple. That is, until you get into the action and realize that fighting these monsters can be quite difficult, especially when you can't really tell how much health they have after slashing the monster for the past 10 minutes, and they are still walking completely fine. Yes, you might be surprised by how some people are fighting the same monster for the past half an hour. Like, wouldn't you get bored after 10 minutes of fighting? Surprisingly, no. It's because the combat is very engaging, all thanks to the weapons that you use and the monsters themselves. In fact, you don't even keep track of the time until the game tells you that you only have a certain amount of time left before the monster walks off and has enough of your dead ass. I guess the monster also has things to do. There's 14 weapons you can choose from, each with their own movesets, abilities, and playstyles that changes the way you fight against these monsters. For example, you have the Greatsword, which is well known for how heavy and slow the weapon is. It's also the reason why I hated the game in the first place. Skill issue, by the way, and don't worry, I got better with this weapon. Then you have the Dual Blades, which is known for its quick movements and agile gameplay. These weapons are all unique in their own ways, and the monsters that you fight will test how well you know your weapon. The weapons are one of the reasons why I enjoy playing Monster Hunter. I would say that each weapon has their own learning curve, and trying to get good at using them is what I find fun. Sure, you can understand how a weapon works and practice on doing some combos against the training dummy that the game provides. However, when it comes to fighting monsters, it's much more different because you have to react with the monster's movement on top of remembering how your weapon works in the heat of battle. Plus, there's the added risk of dying in battle while you're trying to do a combo. As I just mentioned, you need to know about the monsters that you fight. These monsters have their own attack patterns and traits that make them all different from each other. Obviously, you can't be telling me that this dragon is the same as this ape. Some of these monsters can be so aggressive that it can make me quit the game, and that's what we call another skill issue, by the way. So not only do you have to learn how to use your weapon, you have to learn how to fight against these monsters. Once you've managed to defeat a monster, you move on to the next one, and the next one, while upgrading your weapons and armor, until you've created a build that is able to destroy almost any monster that you fight. This is the basic game loop for Monster Hunter. You hunt, you use materials, you build weapons and armor, and hunt again. It's as basic as it can get. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the materials that you get from defeating monsters have their own rarity, meaning that you might have to fight the same monster a couple more times before they can give you the material needed to forge that one armor or weapon upgrade. That's what makes this game a grind. By the way, I failed to mention that each monster can be considered a boss, and there's a lot of them, which means that the game is kind of like a boss rush, if you think about it in that way. Anyways, going back on topic, there's more stuff to do than just fighting all of these monsters in this game. There's the huge areas that you run around in to fight these big boys. In these areas, you'll come across all kinds of wildlife and ores and plants that you gather to make even more things than just weapons and armor. Things like potions, antidotes, flashbangs, pitfall traps, and so much more. All of the stuff that you gather in the world lets you craft these items to help you out in the hunt. Like, how else are you gonna heal yourself? This isn't Fortnite where we get health potions out of nowhere. You have to make that yourself. If you're a fan of collecting stuff, then you're in the right place. By the way, Monster Hunter is actually more about preparing yourself before fighting monsters. Yes, even though fighting monsters is cool and all, like doing all these cool moves and countering attacks and blocking attacks on time, having the right weapon, armor, and equipment is what helps make the fights really fun. I mean, you can torture yourself by not having any right thing on you, but I highly doubt any player could survive using only the starting weapon and armor. Also, you can eat meals before going out on a hunt, which can get you buffs, so that you can be even more ready to fight the monsters. The devs put in work to make the food look detailed and exaggerated and wild, so that they look delicious to eat. From a gameplay perspective, it sounds pointless, but hey, you do have to respect the effort for making the food look good. They even said it themselves that other games don't really put in the effort to make food look delicious. They went through quite a bit to get the food looking like this. There's quite a bit of preparation you have to do before fighting monsters. You have to check your inventory to see how many potions you've got and any other equipment you need. You have to see if you're using the right weapon and armor. You should eat a meal to get buffs. You have to see if you haven't subscribed to my channel. You should maybe check the monster's weaknesses if you don't already know what it is. There's quite a bit to do before hunting a monster, which sounds a bit time consuming, but it actually doesn't take too long to get your stuff and hunt a monster. Monster Hunter is also a great experience to play with friends and even others online. You and your friends can work together to fight monsters. There's a few items in the game that can heal or buff your party, and you also have the Hunting Horn, which is a support weapon, but can be used offensively. The game does scale up the monster's health so that it will be harder to kill when you're in a group, making it fair for the monster to fight against 4 players. You can also get some real funny moments with your friends, like getting one-shotted by a monster. Although there will be the toxic people online that will question your gamer skills. Not too long ago, I listened to a video about the devs talking about the whole development of Monster Hunter. Now, I don't really remember too much of it, but I do remember them talking about something along the lines of how this game has a good mix of reality and fantasy. The weapons that you use all seem kind of fantasy-like, but then we have something like the lance or the sword and shield, which are obviously weapons that we used to have back in the ye olde days. The devs also mentioned how none of these weapons fire off any kind of magic, because they wanted the game to be realistic with a hint of fantasy, which is why we literally have a dragon firing off fire, ice, or lightning. Also, I'm hella paraphrasing here, so I think it's along the lines of what they said, but I find it cool that they had intended the game to be like this nice blend of reality and fiction. I had to ask myself this question, that is, what do I like about Monster Hunter? What is it about this game that's got me addicted to it? Well, there's a lot of things that this game offers. Firstly, you have the very technical and sometimes complex combat that is quite challenging and rewarding for the player. Then you have the armor building mechanics that can further enhance your abilities in combat. And then you have the fantasy world itself, being full of interesting and detailed stuff to explore. I'd say this game is for people that like a challenge while fighting these huge monsters on top of exploring this world that these guys live in. Or it's more like for the people that enjoy hack and slash games with a hint of MMO when it comes to farming materials that are needed to build stuff in the game. Of course, this game isn't for everyone. I thought it wasn't for me as well when I nearly dropped it. But if you give the game a chance, you too might fall into this rabbit hole as well. If you enjoyed watching this video, then be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more Wilds content to come, and I'll see you guys later.